Hello and welcome to Speak Out. Well, here's a group of people around a home computer. There are 13 boys and just one girl, and that apparently is a national statistic. There are millions of home computers in Britain these days, but very few women and girls are using them. Only 1 to every 13 boys. Well, Kim is obviously an exception. Have you got a computer at home, Kim?
No, but the family's thinking of buying a family computer.
But you get onto it at school, do you, the computer?
Yeah.
Is it difficult to get on?
No, because I'm in a computing low-grade class. We're only 4 girls and 20 are in our class.
Is that true of your schools, boys, that girls don't seem to take any interest in computers? Or
Yes.
Right, well, let's talk this whole thing through about micros and why girls are being left out in Speak Out. So why does this revolution in the micro seem to be dominated by the male of the species? We'll be finding out from more than 60 people who've joined us from all over England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales. And we've also got 2 very well-known scientists with us today. We've got McNaught-Davis, known to everybody as Mac, who's helped a lot of people make the most of their micros on his television programmes. And also Judith Hann from Tomorrow's World and many other BBC science programmes. So, what do people think about the micro-revolution? On the back row there.
I just don't see the point in them. I don't see any reason that you need something to look after all your memories for you and keep all the information that you need to find out. Just look at it from books.
As an important career, maybe, to get involved in that kind of science?
No.
I think that the computers are just a phase that people are going through, especially with the computer games. Well, for work, it's good for storing information, but the games, I think it's just a phase people will go through and they'll get tired of it, as skateboards.
You play computer games?
No.
You have a computer?
No, I haven't.
Do you take computer studies?
No.
Is that out of choice?
Yes, I could take it in school, but I just haven't got an interest in it.
Well, on the back row there on my left, to the top row in the white shirt, Ross.
Computer games eventually going to fade out because you buy computer games and you don't actually use them all that often. Well, you might use them at first for a long time, but eventually you get bored of them. So I'd rather just go out and play a sport like rugby or football, something like that.
Are people not developing from playing the games onto making their own programs, do you think?
I don't know. Well, a lot of people do, but normally you don't just start on your own computer. You have to go and do some sort of course in school. And only a certain amount of people are accepted for a course in school, because at the Royal High School, when you're choosing your options, that is one of your options, but you've got to leave out something else that you'd like to take instead, just in case you don't get put in for that course. So I think eventually things like computer games will take over, although I'm not really going to like it.
Well, are there any girls here who would really like to study computers properly, but feel that they don't get the right chance?
Yeah, I would like to do computer studies, but I find it, like other people sort of put it off saying, oh, well, there's not going to be hardly any girls there or something like that. And there's only, in that option sheet, there's only one place where computer studies place, so it's really hard.
So, are you taking a course at the moment?
No, not yet.
Anybody here taking a course?
Yeah, I'm taking one.
And are you the only girl, or are there many girls on your course?
There's about 4 girls in the class and about 17 boys.
And does that make it difficult for you?
No, not really.
What attitude do the boys take to the 4 girls?
None different than as if we was just 4 other boys. There's no sexism in the class at all.
Why are there only 4 of you then?
I don't know, I guess we're just the only ones interested in it. I'm interested in computers because I think that by the time I start to go to work, you're going to need to know about computers because they're becoming a part of our everyday life. And by the time I go to work, if you don't know about computers, you might be able to get a job. So you might as well start knowing where you can learn for free here at school.
See, 4 times as many boys are taking A-levels in computer studies than girls. Why do you think that is?
Well, what I was going to say is she was saying that to get a job, you need to know how to use a computer, but it's the computers that are taking away other jobs. So it's just like a catch-22 situation. It's not really getting anywhere.
But might you not help yourself by being able to handle a computer?
It might help in the home, like, I don't know, because they say you'll be shopping using a computer later, but not at work, I don't think.
Not at work?
No.
Well, let's bring in Judith Hann now. Judith, why do you think it is that girls do seem to be left behind in computers?
Well, this apparently happens with science subjects too, particularly in a mixed school. It seems to be, I don't understand this because I found science very interesting and I just wanted to do it very much. But apparently in a mixed school, girls tend to take on this rather female attitude that they want to do more female subjects, and they don't think that science and computing particularly is very female. But computers are going to affect all of our jobs, whether we're women or men. Already, about 70% of jobs can be considered to be information jobs that will one day be handled by computers. And I've already just made a change myself, which I found very difficult, going over after 25 years of bashing the typewriter for my writing. I've taken on a computer and a word processor, and I found it quite difficult. But now I'm terribly pleased I did, because I'm more efficient.
And do you enjoy doing it?
Well, I find it a more efficient thing. I like to use it as a tool. I can't say that I find computing science terribly interesting myself, although my sons do. There again, the sex difference. And I find that my nieces and younger girls that I know are saying just what they're saying here today. They say computer science is boring. The boys don't find that. My two boys rush off to school in the morning when it's their turn to go into the computer room, and they try and get there for 7:30 in the morning, and there's a fight to get onto the computers.
Do you agree with what Judith just said, that girls really think they should do more feminine things in mixed schools?
Girls are encouraged to do more sort of boyish subjects. They're forced to do feminine subjects like biology and home economics and things like that. They're never encouraged to do chemistry or computer studies or anything.
Who is not encouraging you?
The teachers, they don't tell you to do this. They sort of keep you away from the boyish subjects and push you towards home economics and needlework and things like that.
And the girl too along from you are? Yeah?
I think we're rather from an early age we're sold the idea that the girl's supposed to be dolls and everything, and even in sort of films and television programs, it's always the boy that's the computer whiz kid, it's never a girl. And I think girls just sort of see themselves as not able to be a computer whiz kid and then sort of don't try.
Right. Judith, do you think it's important, really, that girls don't seem to be taking it up?
I think it's terribly important, because just when printing was invented, those people who were illiterate found that they couldn't take part in life. And if we don't become computer literate, we won't be able to have a wide choice of jobs. And I think one of the most exciting things is that because computers are becoming so cheap, and because so many jobs now will eventually be able to be done at home with two-way links with computers to the head office or even to the school. You could do your homework at home. Teachers could work from home, writing their computer programs. All sorts of jobs could be done from home. And that would make it very much easier for women and men to be at home with their young children, and family life will be much easier. There won't be that great divide between the man going off to work and the woman being at home. We could all have far more flexible, more interesting lives.
Well, somebody who's already working in the computer industry is Mac. Mac, is it happening that women are not joining your industry?
Yes, largely that's true, in England anyway. But of course, what we're talking about, there's two different things here. One is actually getting into the profession. And whether a microcomputer at home helped you there, I'm not sure. If you get a camera given, it doesn't mean to say you're going to be a David Bailey. It's certainly not going to become a David Bailey without a camera, but if you have one, it doesn't mean to say you're going to be a David Bailey. You can get over the fear of the computer a little bit. But many other jobs are going to require, as Judith does, use of a computer, but she could actually operate a word processor without having the faintest idea how it worked. You just learn it, and you learn the commands, and you overcome the fear, and you use it as a tool. And many people are going to do that. I don't necessarily see why those people really have to understand how a computer works, except in the very broadest outline.
So is the industry doing anything to try and encourage more girls to take an interest in computers?
we recruit everyone who we can who apply to us, but the real problem starts right here in the schools. And I've heard some of the comments today about how the girls are encouraged to role play, and they're not taught that really this is one of the, out of the top 5 jobs available to girls. And also, by the way, this one pays about 85% of the job, of the pay of a man, even in the United States where you have equal pay legislation. Elsewhere, in other jobs, it's paying about 60%. So it's a very exciting and interesting job for a girl. But in schools, they're encouraged to believe it's a boy's job, which is garbage. Because
I wonder if one reason for all this is that most people start by playing games, don't they, on computers? And a lot of the games are very aggressive, aren't they? You know, they involve killing things, space invaders and things like that. Do you think that's part of it, maybe, that they're too aggressive? On the front row here, just on...
I think the games refer back to when you were children. Boys used to play with guns and cowboys and shoot each other, while the girls had the dolls and played quiet games. I think the computers are referred to as games with missiles and things like that, and I think that's what deters the girls from playing, whilst the boys enjoy action, firing, and as when they were children, they like playing on the games and blasting rockets from off the screen like.
Well, we saw Kim there playing the Space Invaders at the start of the programme. Yep.
Well, I don't agree on that at all, because when I was young, I played Japs and Commandos when I was about younger. So I don't think any of the aggression in the games has anything to do with putting girls off.
But did you get attracted initially to the computer by playing games on it?
Well, yes, and also my father said that it would be a good idea to take up computers since it's sort of taken over the lives.
You've raised an important point there, I think, because people have been blaming teachers for channeling girls away from computers, but maybe parents are doing that as well when it comes to making your options. Yes?
I think parents and teachers should put more influence to girls to go out and practice computer studies, because there's a lot more jobs for girls using computers than there is for men, like good, nice jobs. Like if you're at an airport, you're looking behind all the desks, there's computers. You see very few men, they're all women who are typing away at the computers, and the same with banks. And that's a fairly good job for a girl, and if you don't learn the computer studies, you haven't got a chance then of getting into a good job.
Do you think one of the problems is that many teachers perhaps don't understand computers as well as they should, because after all they've not been trained to understand them, and they can't inspire the girls to get involved and get interested? And if perhaps they were inspired and got involved, we wouldn't be talking in this way today.
Well, most computer teachers, or teachers who teach computing, they're actually maths teachers first of all, and computing would just be something that they had to learn sort of along the way, and so the heart wouldn't really be into it, and they wouldn't be able to really inspire a class as much as they would be able to if computing was their first subject.
The girl next to you.
I agree with that very much. I don't think there's enough enthusiasm for teachers about computing. They never give you any talks to try and inspire anything in you to go and do computing. There's just not enough of that around.
I think people's biggest fear with computers is that then they'll be isolated. Like, men can then do their jobs from the home with a computer. The children don't have to go out to play. They can play with the computer and the computer's games on their own. And the women don't even have to go to the shops. They can order their shopping and groceries through the computer. So that means that everybody's going to be isolated. And it dissolves the community spirit altogether.
I think it could encourage the community spirit, though, because there would be fewer people who would have to live in cities or would have to commute to cities and live nearby. And perhaps the sort of village spirit and community spirit would be increased. With
People wouldn't have the urge to go out. So once they've got their computer, then that's all they'd want.
Well, if they became more efficient, they'd have more time for sort of leisure and sport and doing things in the community, and it could in fact be very good for the community spirit, rather than having, you know, the typical workaholic working a 10-hour day with perhaps an hour's commuting to work and an hour back, so that he or she never sees his family and never takes part in the community. I think it could have the opposite effect. I feel very optimistic about the time when more of us work from home.
I think there must be a really bleak future ahead of us if we all have to resort to learning the computer to get a job. I mean, I don't have any interest in a computer, and I mean, I don't like the idea of me being demoted to a really, second-class job, which I can't earn money in if I don't learn a computer. because I don't want to learn a computer. I mean, it doesn't interest me in any way. And the computer age seems to be pushing everyone into doing that. Not through their own choice, but because they have to do it. And you shouldn't be, you know, going to a computer just because you want to get a job out of it. So you want to do it, it should be because you want to do it.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it's really a female instinct which tells girls, you know, not to go onto computer. It's more for boys. It's a machine, and, you know, mechanics, and boys are associated with mechanics, so girls don't bother with machines.
I think that's a load of rubbish. I mean, if you want to learn about computers, you want to learn about it, not because you're a girl, because you're a boy. It's got nothing to do with what sex you are. Before that, someone said something about not using your brain if you've got a computer. But you do have to use your brain to program something. You have to think about it carefully. The computer does not tell you how to program itself. You've got to work it out for yourself, and it takes a lot of brain power, and it's really hard. It's nothing to do with about being a boy or a girl at all. It's just about being an individual.
But why do you think it is that males seem to be dominating the computer revolution?
Can't answer that question, I don't know.
Because I think basically it was probably men that started researching into computers and invented the thing in the first place. I would get back to someone's point about the community spirit and everything, and using your brain in computers. The thing is, you're only using your brain. What's going to happen is you're eventually going to be like the Americans who rely on their cars to go everywhere and don't walk anywhere. You're going to get people who rely on their computers and are going to get withdrawal symptoms from not being with their computer. Well, what will eventually happen is people will be walking around with wee cases and a wee TV monitor screen so they can play with a computer game. And it's eventually going to break down, and no one's not going to get any exercise or anything like that. I mean, I don't think that you'll have enough leisure time because you'll be so hooked on your computer that you won't have anything else to do.
I think home computers are getting a bit of a fad now, and especially with the boys. I mean, because all the you've got hundreds of magazines, things like BBC Micro, but they're all sort of aimed at the man. They're not sort of interesting for the girl. I mean, I've picked up some and looked at them, and there's nothing to sort of... You need a bit of glossiness to get yourself interested in it, and then get down to the nitty-gritty, but they just don't seem very interesting. They're not something you'd want to pick up and read, and I think that's what...
Do you think that's true of a lot of the software of micros as well? There's no appeal to girls?
There's no appeal to girls. They just sort of look like a jumbled up bunch of words. I mean, I wouldn't pick them up out of choice.
Well, the boy just in front of you in the black jumper.
What does it make to make a girl like computers if they don't like the software, they don't like the books or the computers themselves? Then they complain that they're not in the jobs for computers.
Right, who's going to answer that? Yes?
What it is, children are stereotyped from a very early age. Little girls play with dolls and silly things like that, and boys play with train sets. And anything manual is to do with boys. And as soon as computer comes in, it's fiddling with your fingers and anything like that, and straight away the boys go for it. And girls just aren't used to playing with things like that, and so they're left behind straight away. And that's why it is, I think.
Well, I got into terrible trouble a few months ago on a programme with Mac for suggesting that I couldn't understand why girls didn't like computers because they were playing with a keyboard, and that girls tend to like hitting typewriters and keyboards, and that was taken to be a very sexist thing when I said it. But is that not true? I mean, could that not be an attraction of the computer that actually type things out?
Not everybody likes bashing typewriters. I mean, it's not out of choice that they bash typewriters, probably because it's the only thing they can do.
I was actually going to say, John, that the computer has broken down one of the big barriers, because boys now know their way around a keyboard.
Yeah.
And younger boys, teenagers, have no problems with a computer at all. They don't have any feelings about that keyboard being a female thing. But somebody of your age, you asked that question, and it was sexist.
Yeah.
But also,
I use a typewriter every day, so
yes,
I don't regard it as being sexist. You see?
But middle management in a lot of big firms, managers were given computers, and they wouldn't use them because they wouldn't use a keyboard. They thought that was women's work. So they had to bring out a touch-sensitive screen, because men would only use a computer if they could operate it touching the screen, which I think is appalling.
The strange thing is, before the electronic digital computer, when they had electrical computers which plugged boards like this, almost all the programming was done by women. And it was only subsequent to that that it became a male-dominated profession. So it really didn't start off with all men, it really started off with women doing the job largely, and subsequently became an almost exclusive male preserve. So it's been taken away from women.
The boy in front of you in the blue T-shirt, eh?
Well, during the course of this discussion, several people have mentioned fear of computers. I don't see that there's anything to be afraid of from them. They can't think. You know, it's the programs that you've got to be afraid of, not the computers themselves.
Yes, some survey was done, and they wired people up with electrodes and put them in front of computers. And some of these people were people who did work with them regularly, and some were new to computers. And a very high percentage had what we all now call computer phobia. They hated the thing, and they were frightened. And I must admit I was a bit when I first felt I ought to start to use them. I had this feeling that they were boring, they were grey and rather frightening. And I think it's a very common reaction.
User-unfriendly, that's a computer phrase, isn't it? User-unfriendly.
Somebody got so frustrated, they threw a cup of coffee over a computer quite recently.
Some people are afraid that it's going to replace them. And largely that is true. And middle management particularly are the next band that are really very, very threatened by computers. And those people are very worried because they're usually middle-aged and they're very worried about the computer and what it's going to do with their jobs.
And what about you, Lud? I mean, does it worry you? In a few years' time, you'll be hoping to get jobs.
It's just going to be a few top people who are going to be able to program the computers and do everything. You're going to get rid of manual workers, you're going to get rid of the middle sort of management, everything else like that. What's going to happen to the people down at the bottom? I mean, other things is you can't replace people like social workers and policemen, journalists, so there's always going to be another few jobs going around anyway. But like I said, it's going to be massive unemployment if you bring in a lot of computers.
The computer revolution has just happened too fast, and that people can't catch up with it. Like older people often have quite a fear of computers. I don't have a fear of them, but I don't really trust them. But if I'd been born, say, 10 years from now, I would have grown up with computers, and I don't think I'd have had this fear of them so much.
And how do you think they're going to affect your job prospects?
Well, I feel a bit afraid about that if I don't know a lot about computers, I might not be able to get a very good job. I don't like to think about it, but I don't really want to learn about computers.
Well, this year, of course, is WISE, isn't it? And Judith is quite heavily involved in WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, and computing, presumably, as well. Does that computing come into this?
Well, yes, computing into the engineering side, yes.
Yes. What kind of impact do you think that sort of campaign has?
Well, it certainly, hopefully, will have a good impact. It's certainly needed, because here only 1/10 of the number of girls go into engineering, as they do in America. And in other European countries, particularly behind the Iron Curtain, far, far more women go into engineering than in America. And if women don't go into engineering, we're going to continue this problem of the whole industry being very male-dominated, and therefore girls at school are not going to be interested, and the problem will continue.
So this year, you're trying, well, the WISE campaign is trying to persuade teachers and people in school to encourage girls to take up engineering.
Yes, I mean, obviously it's something that needs to be started at 11 or 12, because you're making your decisions about what direction you're going into in school subjects, certainly by the 2nd, 3rd year. And so it does need to be started early, and it's at a time when perhaps girls aren't starting to think about what sort of jobs they want. And they think of engineering as being a dirty job that men do, a rather manual job. And of course it isn't now. And it's a job that women can do just as well as men.
I think that, as everyone said, that women are getting left behind in the computer age. And I think people ought to give them a chance. I mean, you're sort of conditioned when you're very young to think that, engineering, that sort of thing, isn't for women. But I think if you sort of show an interest in it, especially at school, and they will sort of encourage you. But I think it's up to you. Do something.
Is WISE having any impact, I wonder? Have all of you heard about this campaign? That's bad news, isn't it?
Well, it is, because we were talking about it on Saturday Superstore.
That's right.
On the back row over there.
I went to the person next to me who said that there was no the teachers didn't encourage or discourage people in the lessons. In our lesson, they actually encouraged the girls in all our science lessons more than the boys, and the girls sit separately from the boys, and the teacher is nearly all of the lesson on the side of the class with the brainy girls, and she doesn't go near the boys, or he doesn't go that much to the
boys' destiny.
So the boys are being discriminated against in science.
Yeah, because
According to you?
they're trying to stop the discrimination, but they're going a bit too far.
I think one of the reasons why girls are scared to do computers and physics and the things that they're supposed to be traditionally not meant to do are because they haven't been given a proper opportunity. Perhaps, I mean, they're scared off, and if they've been given a chance to do them, they probably would begin to like them and, you know, decide, right, well, I want to do this.
What scares them off, you think?
It's just talk. I mean, people saying, right, a girl says, oh, I'm going to do physics. You say, oh, well, why do that? And that's a boy's subject.
And the boys say that, do they? Or they're the girls, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't do it in our school, but that's what I'm told.
Yes. On the front row.
I think a reason why girls have been scored off is because it's all of it. Computers 5 years ago wasn't really, there wasn't so many home computers. All of a sudden it's just happened, like, you know, overnight, and girls just haven't grasped it yet. I think that's not to say that girls won't become really more interested in computers over the next 3 or 4 years. Because I got a computer recently, not because I really wanted it, no, personally, but everybody else in class and school seemed to have it, so it seemed to be the end thing, you'd be left behind. And all I could do is play games and try and read up and practice things, but it doesn't really mean anything to me.
And it's a pretty expensive way of keeping up with everybody else, isn't it?
Yeah, that's another reason why it's probably very dear. People who are not so well off, maybe they again feel left out because they haven't got a good chance of going on and studying it privately.
Do you girls mind that there's only one girl in every 13 people actually handling a home computer at the moment? Do you think that's a bad thing or a good thing for the female species?
I think it's a bad thing. Because I think that women should be able to handle things just as well as men. And we were having more equal rights in the 70s, and now with the home computers in the 80s, men are becoming more superior now.
Another girl?
I am worried about that 1 in 13 is a girl learning computers, but I don't think computers are everything. I mean, I like the sciences. I mean, there are lots of places where there isn't job equality and everyone seems to just become concentrating on computers. There are piles of places where women are just excluded. I mean, it's just not computers, and that's what everyone seems to do. When they think of job inequality, they always think of computers. But I mean, there's lots of jobs in the sort of the scientific field where girls are excluded.
I think the girls following on from our age, about 5 years behind us, will be far more interested in computing because they can do it in primary school. They're starting with micros and things in school now. But we never had the opportunity for anything like that. We only had work cards, hardly ever saw television. So therefore, they've got a totally new, modern form of teaching in primary. And I think it will help them. And we'll probably see more women in computers in a few years' time.
Well, thank you very much, and thank all of you for speaking out today about the way that micros are affecting all our lives. And our special thanks to Judith Hann, who's joined us, and to Ian McNaught-Davis, Mac. And thank you for listening to us. I hope you'll join us again at the same time next week. Until then, bye-bye.